Book the Fourth, Recalled to the Light. This is chapters 34, 35, and 36. The book that I'm reading from is the Scholastic Paperback Edition from 2006. The text copyright is 2003. Chapter 34. Kill 'em, even if they's already dead. Reader, you did not forget about our small mouse, did you? Back to the light. That was what Gregory whispered to him when he wrapped Despereaux in his napkin and placed him on the tray. And then Meg, after her conversation with Roscuro, carried the tray to the kitchen, and when she saw the cook, she shouted, "It's me, Miggery Sow, back from the deep downs." "Ah, lovely," said Cook. "Ain't we all relieved?" Mig put the tray on the counter. "Here, here," said Cook. "Your duties ain't done. You must clear it." "How's that?" shouted Mig. "You must clear the tray," shouted Cook. She reached over and took a hold of the napkin and gave it a good shake, and Despereaux tumbled out of the napkin and landed right directly, plop, in a measuring cup full of oil. "Ach!" said Cook. "A mouse in my kitchen, in my cooking oil, in my measuring cup. You, Mig, kill him directly." Mig bent her head and looked at the mouse slowly sinking to the bottom of the glass cup. "Poor little Missy," she said, and she struck her hand into the oil and pulled him out by his tail. Despereaux, gasping and coughing and blinking at the bright light, could have wept with joy at his rescue. But he was not given time to cry. "Kill him!" shouted Cook. "Gore," said Meg. "All right." And holding Despereaux by the tail, she went to get the kitchen knife. But the mouse tail, covered as it was in oil, was slick and difficult to hold on to, and Meg, reaching for the knife, loosened her grip, and Despereaux fell to the floor. Meg looked down at the little bundle of brown fur. "Gore," she said. "That killed him for sure." "Kill him, even if he's already dead," shouted Cook. "That's my philosophy with mice. If they're alive, kill them. If they're dead, kill them. That way you can be certain of having yourself a dead mouse, which is the only kind of mouse to have." "That's some good philosophy, that is. Kill 'em, even if they're already dead." "Hurry, you cauliflower-eared fool!" shouted Cook. "Hurry!" Despereaux lifted his head from the floor. The afternoon sun was shining through the large kitchen window. He had time to think how miraculous the light was. And then it disappeared, and Mig's face loomed into view. She studied him, breathing through her mouth. "Little Missy," she said, "ain't you gonna skedaddle?" Despereaux looked for a long moment into Mig's small, concerned eyes. And then there was a blinding flash and a sound of metal moving through the air as Mig brought the knife down, down, down. Despereaux felt a very intense pain in his hindquarters, and he leapt up into action. Reader, he scurried. He scurried like a professional mouse. He zigged to the left and he zagged to the right. "Gore!" shouted Mig. "Missed him!" "Ain't that a surprise?" said Cook, just as Despereaux scurried under a crack in the pantry door. "I got the little Niecy's tail, though," said Mig. She bent over and picked up Despereaux's tail and held it up, proudly displaying it to Cook. "So," shouted Cook, "what good will that do us when the rest of him has disappeared into the pantry?" "I don't know," said Meg, and she braced herself as Cook advanced upon her, intending to give her a good clout to the ear. "I don't know." Chapter 35. The Knight in Shining Armor. Despereaux was pondering the reverse of that question. He was wondering, not what he would do with his tail, but what he would do without it. He was sitting on a large bag of flour, high atop a shelf in the pantry, crying for what he had lost. The pain in his hindquarters was intense, and he wept because of it. But he also cried because he was happy. He was out of the dungeon. He had been recalled to life. His rescue had happened just in time for him to save the Princess P from the terrible fate that the rat had planned for her. So Despereaux wept with joy, and with pain, and with gratitude. He wept with exhaustion, and despair, and hope. He wept with all the emotions a young, small mouse, who has been sent to his death, and then been delivered from it in time to save his beloved, can feel. Reader, the mouse wept. And then he lay down on the sack of flour and slept. Outside the castle, the sun set, and the stars came out one by one, and then they disappeared and gave way to the rising sun, and still Despereaux slept. And while he slept, he dreamt. He dreamt of the stained glass windows and the dark of the dungeon. In Despereaux's dream, the light came to life, brilliant and glorious, in the shape of a knight swinging a sword. The knight fought the dark, and the dark took many shapes. First, the dark was his mother, uttering phrases in French, and then the dark became his father, beating the drum. The dark was Furlough, wearing a black hood and shaking his head no. And the dark became a huge rat, smiling a smile that was evil and sharp. "The dark!" Despereaux cried, turning his head to the left. "The light!" he murmured, turning his head to the right. He called out to the knight. He shouted, "Who are you? Will you save me?" But the knight did not answer him. "Tell me who you are," Despereaux shouted. The knight stopped swinging his sword. He looked at Despereaux. "You know me," he said. "No," said Despereaux, "I don't." "You do," said the knight. He slowly took the armor off his head and revealed nothing. No one. The suit of armor was empty. "No, oh no," said Despereaux. "There is no knight in shining armor. It's all just make-believe, like Happily Ever After." And in his sleep reader, the small mouse began to cry. Chapter 36. What Meg Carried. And while the mouse slept, Roscuro put his terrible plan into effect. Would you like to hear, reader, how it all unfolded? The story is not a pretty one. There's violence in it, and cruelty. But stories that are not pretty have a certain value too, I suppose. Everything, as you well know, having lived in this world long enough to figure out a thing or two for yourself, cannot always be sweetness and light. Listen, this is how it happened. First, the rat finished once and for all the job that he had started long ago. He chewed through Gregory's rope, all the way through it, so the jailer became lost in the maze of the dungeon. Late at night, when the castle was dark, the serving girl Miggery Sow climbed the stairs to the princess's room. In her hand she carried a candle, and in the pockets of her apron were two very ominous things. In the right pocket, hidden in case they should encounter anyone on the stairs, was a rat with a spoon on his head and a cloak of red around his shoulders. In the left pocket was a kitchen knife, the same knife that Miggery Sow had used to cut off the tail of a certain mouse. These were the things: a rat and a knife and a candle that Mig carried with her as she climbed up, up, up the stairs. "Gore!" she shouted to the rat. "It's dark, ain't it?" "Yes, yes," whispered Roscuro from her pocket. "It is quite dark, my dear." "When I'm princess," began Meg. "Shh," said Roscuro. "May I suggest that you keep your glorious plans for the future to yourself? And may I further suggest that you keep your voice down to a whisper? We are, after all, on a covert mission. Do you know how to whisper, my dear?" "I do," shouted Meg. "Then please," said Roscuro, "please institute this knowledge immediately." "Gore," whispered Meg. "All right." "Thank you," said Roscuro. "Do I need to review with you again our plan of action?" "I got it all straight right here in my head," whispered Meg, and she tapped the side of her head with one finger. "How comforting," said Roscuro. "Perhaps, my dear, we should go over it again, one more time, just to be sure." "Well," said Meg, "we go into the princess's room, and she'll be sleeping and snoozing and snoring, and I will wake her up and show her the knife and say, 'If you does not want to get hurt, princess, you must come with me.'" "And you will not hurt her," said Roscuro. "No, I won't, because I want her to live, so she can be my lady-in-waiting when I become the princess." "Exactly," said Roscuro. "That will be her divine comeuppance." "Gore," whispered Meg. "Yes, her divine comeuppance." Meg had, of course, no idea what the phrase divine comeuppance meant, but she very much liked the sound of it, and she repeated it over and over to herself until Roscuro said, "And then?" "And then," continued Meg, "I tell her to get out of her princess bed and come with me on a little journey." "Ha!" Roscuro said. "A little journey, that is right. Ha! I love the understatement of that phrase. A little journey. Oh, it will be a little journey. Indeed it will." "And then," said Meg, who was now coming to her favorite part of the plan. We take her to the deep downs and gives her some long lessons on how to be a serving girl, and gives me some short lessons on how to be a princess. And when we is all done studying up, we switch places, and I gets to be the princess, and she gets to be the maid. Gore. Reader, this is the very plan that Roscuro presented to Mig when he first met her. It was, of course, a ridiculous plan. No one would ever, not for one blind minute, mistake Mig for the princess, or the princess for Mig. But Miggery Sow, as I have pointed out to you before, was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And reader, too, she wanted so desperately to become a princess. She wanted, oh, how she wanted. And it was because of this terrible wanting that she was able to believe in Roscuro's plan with every ounce of her heart. The rat's real plan was, in a way, more simple and more terrible. He intended to take the princess into the deepest, darkest part of the dungeon. He intended to have Mig put chains on the princess's hands and feet, and he intended to keep the glittering, glowing, laughing princess there in the dark forever. That's the end of chapter 36. Thank you to these websites for the pictures that I used in this PowerPoint, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.